In her previous life, she was the most trusted subordinate of the blood demon cult leader, single-handedly wiping out the prestigious Namgung clan with only her sword. However, she was unaware that the cult leader had deceived her into massacring her own family, as she was the Namgung child who had gone missing over 10 years ago. Upon waking, Zhu Hua discovered she had regressed to the age of 13 and vowed to save her clan this time, immediately heading to the He Yun sect to obtain the Great Restoration Pill. She used a single heart-piercing strike to silence the thugs in her way, and though the furious sect leader and elders ordered an ambush, she easily took down over a dozen men. Seeing this, the intimidated sect leader quickly ordered his men to surrender, fearing the entire sect would be destroyed if she continued her display. Afterward, Zhu Hua successfully obtained the Great Restoration Pill, which would allow her to expel the demonic arts from her body. But reality was not so simple. She was soon blocked by a mysterious man whom she recognized as Jai Wu Guan, the cloak sword master, and one of the Namgung clan's 3 strongest experts. He coldly asked who she was and stated he would decide whether to spare her based on her answer, while she inwardly cursed her luck for encountering him while acting in secret. With no other choice, she respectfully bowed and greeted the legendary martial arts supreme senior, causing Jai Wu Guan to frown in surprise. He leaped down to the ground and remarked how amusing it was that she called him senior, as he never accepted anyone with such an unpleasant aura as a junior. He leaned in close and asked for her age, to which she replied she was 13 as far as she knew, leading him to question how she could not know her own age. She explained that an accident had caused her to lose her memories before age 5, and he then proceeded to ask where her scar had come from. She claimed not to know and stated she had studied under the old master of the Hua Wu Pavilion in Yunnan, though he noted it seemed that would no longer be the case. She calmly replied it was because he intended to kill her, a response that stunned Jai Wu Guan, who then warned her that the item she held could become poisonous to her. She argued that she needed it to purge her internal energy despite the risks, and when he asked why she wanted to remove it, Zhu Hua looked up at him. With clear eyes, she said her family might not accept her with such power, and when asked about her hometown, she recalled fragments of her past. She unhesitatingly answered a Fei Anhui, which left Jai Wu Guan deep in thought since that was the ancestral home of the Namgung clan. A moment later, he placed his hand on Zhu Hua's shoulder and excitedly told her that he would personally help her this time. He continued to pat her shoulder, offering to act as her protector during her meditation so that she could successfully complete her physical reconstruction. Her expression turned sour as she realized he intended to keep her under observation regardless of her identity, which she found to be a true nuisance. The scene shifts elsewhere, where a man has a sword pressed against his throat while facing a mysterious hooded figure in black. Terrified, he cries out, "What are you doing? Wasn't our agreement different?" The black-clad man ignores him, coldly demanding to know where the item is hidden. The man frantically tries to explain, "Hidden? What do you mean hidden? The little tower master of Hua Wu Tower took it less than an hour ago. Describe her appearance. She looks like a girl of about 10. After he finishes speaking, the leader glances back, and a group of black-clad men begins to communicate silently among themselves. The leader then utters a cold command, "Let's go." The entire group immediately disperses and vanishes into the silent night. Now alone in the hall, the man gasps for breath after his narrow escape, his eyes filled with deep concern as he repeatedly mutters, "Little Tower Master." Previously, Zhu Hua had told him that once she left, he should order his subordinates to flee far away, as the assassins of Hua Wu Tower would soon arrive. He asked why they would attack since the item had been handed over, to which Zhu Hua replied it was because she was no longer part of Hua Wu Tower. Soon, Mount Hua and Shaolin will arrive to destroy the He Yun sect, and Hua Wu Tower will feign a desire to help just to manipulate everyone. This was the truth Zhu Hua revealed. Their true goal is to assassinate the sect leader and seize control of the He Yun sect, so he must not fall for their trap. She then handed him a black card. In 7 days, follow the instructions on this paper exactly. It is the only way to protect the He Yun sect from Mount Hua and Shaolin. Looking at the card, he couldn't help but shudder. It was terrifying how many steps ahead she could see. Meanwhile, Jai Wu Guan had led Zhu Hua to his usual cultivation grounds. With no clear paths and dense foliage, the place was hard to find and perfectly suited for their needs. She asked him again, "Is this really all right?" Her face betrayed her skepticism, as she asked if being a guardian meant he would stay by her side to protect her while she regulated her internal energy. "I don't understand why you're helping a girl you just met today. You aren't even certain I'm the patriarch's granddaughter, yet you're being so devoted." For a moment, he didn't know how to explain, stammering before pointing at Zhu Hua. First of all, I loathe people with such foul internal energy. Hearing that you want to purge it is commendable. Your wish to return home is also quite pitiful. Stop asking so many questions, kid. What matters now is the moment of your rebirth. Zhu Hua suddenly said something that made him pause. Thank you for finding this place and bringing me here. Upon hearing this, his face lit up with joy. He tried to pat her head, but she dodged. Don't die, kid. I can help more if needed. I can handle it alone. You probably can, Jai Wu Guan said, crossing his arms. Once you're reborn, fix that stiff way of speaking. You look like a 13-year-old girl, but you aren't cute at all. You'll be seeing your parents soon. Parents would be heartbroken if their children acted so coldly after a long separation, he said. She wondered if she seemed odd, then turned and headed into the cave. All right, I understand. What do you like, kid? A voice echoed back, Tanghulu. The man laughed, seeing a hint of childhood remaining as he gazed into the distance. Stay alive so we can meet again, little one. Inside the cave, Zhu Hua decided to consume the elixir, placing it into her mouth without a moment's hesitation. Profound power surged like a vast sea. If blood energy was a river, then pure internal power was the ocean. Focus. No matter how excellent the medicine, it can turn into poison at any moment. Failing to expel the blood energy or having chaotic power could lead to a state of chi deviation. Zhu Hua steeled her resolve. She needed more power, faster, and more intense, until not a single trace of blood energy remained. It truly was a power nurtured by blood. A streak of fresh blood escaped the corner of her mouth. Despite her efforts to purge it, it clung on stubbornly. It refused to vanish, just like the blood demon who had controlled her for so long. She would never let him pull her strings again, at least not in this lifetime. Her mind grew increasingly resolute. I will not let things go your way. Outside, Jai Wu Guan had waited so long that he began to feel anxious. She should have emerged by now. Could something have gone wrong, such as her blood meridians being disrupted or her falling into chi deviation? Was it a mistake to let such a small child go in there alone? Just as he stood up, Zhu Hua emerged from the cave. His gaze was full of admiration. She was truly an extraordinary child. Jai Wu Guan sighed in relief. Well done. You finally purged that foul internal power. Even I feel relieved. He then held out a bag to her. Here, take this. Zhu Hua asked curiously, what is this? He replied, a gift for your survival. Do you want to open it? As he watched her, he thought. Not only did she expel that filthy internal power, but she also accumulated more power. Converting the residual energy into her own at such an age is a staggering achievement. Zhu Hua's expression shifted instantly when she saw the contents of the bag. It turned out the man had bought her a stick of Tanghulu. How is it I can tell by your face that you're pleased? Thank you, sir, he thought. I should be the one thanking you for surviving. Now let's head down to the village. You haven't bathed in 3 days. First, you must soak in warm water. He then picked Zhu Hua up. It had been 3 days since she entered the cave. By the way, aren't you hungry? I'll introduce you to a famous dish in a fay. Hold on tight, kid. Don't blame me if you fall. He channeled power into his legs. Cracks instantly appeared on the ground as they both vanished at a speed invisible to the naked eye. From above, Zhu Hua could see everything clearly, her eyes wide at the beautiful architecture below. Finally, they arrived in a fay. Inside a restaurant, several dishes were served as Zhu Hua frowned, wondering what was so special about them, while the man ate heartily. I ordered a double portion, so eat your fill, he said. But Zhu Hua replied that she wasn't hungry after eating candied haws. Seeing her lack of interest in the food, Jai Wu Guan asked, Hey kid, what do you think is the most popular dish at an inn? Steamed buns and noodles, obviously, she replied as he used his chopsticks to peel a bun, agreeing that making a dish famous was no easy feat. Do you know how hard it is? This is a place where people eat without expectations, yet it feels like seeing the afterlife. She thought she had already seen it thanks to the great resurrection pill. The man offered her the peeled bun, claiming she would cry for more. She reluctantly took a bite without a word, but her eyes instantly lit up with delight. Propping a leg on the table, he asked if it was delicious. Zhu Hua just kept eating, so he patted her head and told her to eat slowly, promising to order more until she was full. On the street, 3 drunks talked about finding a good meal and headed inside. Nearby, Jai Wu Guan watched from a rooftop and sternly questioned the person behind him. When asked if the rats were handled, the subordinate respectfully confirmed it and handed over a cloth bandage, noting that while the enemies were strong, their emblem was unfamiliar. It seemed they had reported much to their master. As they prepared to leave, the subordinate asked Jai Wu Guan what should be done about the child. He replied that one person following her was enough, as she wasn't so weak that she would immediately face disaster, and they would meet again in a few days. The next day at the Namgung clan's Heavenly Tiger Hall, a man slammed the table and shouted in a rage about the 300 gold bars. He complained that the child had been missing for 8 years without a single trace. Questioning, if increasing the reward would actually change anything. This man was Namgung Kingshan, the third son of Namgung Wushan. The elders remained silent, simply listening to his frustrated outburst. He argued that 300 gold bars could buy a massive merchant guild for someone whose fate was unknown. But another man suddenly told Kingshan to watch his words. He remarked how heartbroken their elder brother Kingyun would be to hear such things. This speaker was Namgung Qinghai, the second son of Namgung Wushan. Namgung Kingshan sat down and grumbled that their eldest brother was being unreasonable, as his long absence forced the second brother to handle all clan affairs. A sudden roar cut him off as Namgung Wushan, the head of the Namgung clan known as the Heavenly Dragon Sword Emperor, commanded Kingshan to stop. Facing his father, Namgung Kingshan could only bow his head. From his seat of authority, Namgung Wushan spoke, admitting that his son was correct. He acknowledged the truth that because the eldest brother had been wandering for 8 years searching for his daughter, the position of young clan leader had remained vacant. "Do you harbor any resentment toward your brother?" Namgung Kingshan replied. "It is not resentment. I simply believe it is time for me to return. Would you still speak this way if your own daughter were missing? Could you truly tell yourself to give up on a child whose fate remains unknown?" Namgung Kingshan bowed with clasped hands, admitting his short-sightedness. "Father, please do not speak recklessly just because you can. I understand." The elder rubbed his forehead, thinking how troublesome it was that Kingshan wasn't the only one dissatisfied. Someone might be exploiting the boy's impulsive nature to further their own agenda. In fact, he was certain of it. His fingers tapped incessantly against the armrest, knowing this discontent could not be ignored. As he pondered how to handle it, a voice suddenly called out, reporting that child has just passed through the estate gates. The speaker was none other than Jai Wugyuan, and upon hearing this, Namgung Wushan immediately issued an order. "Everyone dismiss yourselves." In another room, Jai Wugyuan was speaking with a middle-aged man. "Hey, Fei Fang's sword, has that child finally arrived?" "Yes, a little one who is both adorable and stubborn. She is almost here." This man was Namgung Wen, the chief manager of the Namgung clan. "It seems the meeting ended abruptly because of her." "Indeed, there she is." From outside, the figure of a young girl slowly approached. Despite her youth, her eyes held a resolve far beyond her 13 years. As Namgung Wen looked at Zhu Hua, he felt a strange sense of familiarity. Suddenly, memories of the past flooded his mind, showing a sweet young girl reaching out her hand toward him and calling him Uncle Manager. "It is you. The young lady is truly back." Namgung Wen's eyes welled up as if he were about to cry, certain it was her. Seeing him wipe his tears, Jai Wugyuan quickly said it was too early to conclude, though even his own eyes could not hide his joy. Meanwhile, Zhu Hua stood there in silence. She suddenly broke into a cold sweat as she thought of the Heavenly Dragon Sword Emperor, one of the 10 greatest masters in the world. Is this what it feels like to stand before the claws of a dragon? Her hands tightened as she told herself to stay calm. He was not an enemy right now, so there was no need to shrink back. Zhu Hua immediately clasped her hands and performed a formal bow. "I pay my respects to the head of the Namgung clan." Namgung Wushan rested his face on his hand and calmly told her to come closer, while Namgung Wen asked for her name. "I am Zhu Hua," she replied. "I heard you claim to be the child the Namgung clan is searching for. Is that true?" "Yes, it is. The child we seek has a birthmark on her neck. I was told no such mark was found on the back of your neck. I am unsure about that, but I came here because I remembered childhood memories of growing up in the Namgung estate." Namgung Wen asked her to elaborate on those memories, and Zhu Hua slowly recounted. "I remember a path of poppies by a lake with weeping willows, where I walked along a trail blanketed in poppy flowers. I was holding someone's hand, but I do not know whose. It was a very large, rough, and warm hand, and I could only grasp a single finger." Namgung Wushan fell into a pensive silence, finding the story quite strange. Zhu Hua thought to herself that she had finally gotten a reaction, which was expected since the weeping willows, the lake, and the poppies existed only in the Namgung clan head's garden. When she had once broken into the clan head's palace, those memories resurfaced, though she had mistaken them for hallucinations caused by poppy pollen until she burned the garden down. She continued, "I lost all my memories before the age of 5, so this is all I have. Is it enough?" Namgung Wushan replied indifferently that poppies were ubiquitous, and ponds with weeping willows were common sights for the wealthy. "Do you believe that is enough to prove you are a member of the Namgung family?" However, Zhu Hua's subsequent words left Jai Wugyuan and Namgung Wen in shock. "Do not understand. Is it not the Namgung family who is searching for the missing child? Why then must I be the one to prove my own identity? I assumed that coming here would provide a way to verify my claim, would it not?" The two men found her reasoning to be perfectly sound. Even Namgung Wushan was unable to offer a rebuttal, while Jai Wugyuan grew flustered by the girl's boldness and quickly apologized to the patriarch, claiming she meant no offense. However, Namgung Wushan suddenly burst into a hearty laugh that echoed through the hall and told the little girl she was right, stating that while the proof was here, it could not be produced yet, which allowed the two men to breathe a sigh of relief. You must wait a few days for the verification. Do you agree? Zhu Hua confidently accepted, prompting the order to arrange a room for her temporary stay. Within the Namgung great family, the celestial guest courtyard was reserved for only the most esteemed visitors, and nearly a year after its last occupant, the patriarch quietly ordered it opened for this new guest. The guest was revealed to be a child, followed by Namgung Yan, the outer hall master of the Namgung family, who recalled the instructions previously given by Namgung Wen. He was told not to inquire about the guest's identity or their purpose for visiting the Namgung estate, nor to pry into their affairs. As Namgung Yan pondered the situation, I had heard the rumors, but I never expected the honored guest to be a child, especially since this place is cleaned 5 times daily, and the linens are changed even when vacant. Please inform the handmaidens if you require anything, and rest assured of your safety, as the Namgung Inner Hall warriors are currently guarding the celestial guest courtyard. Hearing that she had not yet eaten and must be hungry, the man offered to prepare some food, causing Zhu Hua's ears to perk up as she immediately agreed without any hesitation. Shortly after, the table was laden with a feast of visually stunning and appetizing dishes, leaving Zhu Hua momentarily overwhelmed and unsure of which delicacy to sample first. She noticed a type of cake wrapped in leaves, but did not know how to unwrap it, so a handmaiden stepped forward to assist her when she saw the girl struggling. While unwrapping the cake for Zhu Hua, the maid explained that the bamboo leaves infused the food with their fragrance and preserved its flavor, noting that the Namgung family always provided the finest meals for their most esteemed guests. Zhu Hua thanked her, leading the maid to marvel at how adorable the guest was before asking if the food was to her liking. Upon tasting it, Zhu Hua's eyes immediately sparkled with delight. It was delicious, and after eating until she was completely full, she lay on the bed reflecting on the fact that she had finally arrived at the Namgung estate. Every corner and object within the Namgung estate was exactly as she remembered, yet the sensation was entirely different, particularly regarding the Namgung gate and that man, Namgung Yan. A shadow of sorrow crossed Zhu Hua's eyes as she recalled how, in her previous life, she had personally slaughtered the Namgung family, demanding once more to know the location of their secret manual. Even if my limbs are torn to pieces, I will never betray Namgung. I would rather be killed, for I shall seek my vengeance even from the depths of hell. We shall see if you can maintain such defiance once your limbs are shredded. Your struggle is futile, as everything has come to an end. Zhu Hua pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed by a suffocating discomfort, wondering if this unease stemmed from having to face them and act as if nothing were wrong. It has not happened yet, for nothing has truly occurred. It can still be prevented, she thought, as voices drifted from another room. When asked if that child had meddled in the affairs of Huashan and Shaolin, the training hall master confirmed that a secret transaction involving great restoration pills had been reported, noting the situation was more complex than anticipated while scratching his head. The members of the Haeyun gang were insignificant, yet that child single-handedly threw everything into chaos. The real issue, as you know, is that they managed to defeat the elites of Mashan. It was unclear how they obtained the Great Restoration Pill, since the Haeyun gang lacked the strength, suggesting another faction's involvement, while Patriarch Namgung Wushan remained silent with his eyes closed. He remained silent while focusing his spirit, prompting the training hall master to wave a hand before him and ask if he was listening, as Namgung Wen watched in silence. Namgung Wen wondered if the patriarch had realized something from the report alone, while the training hall master considered the gravity of the situation involving a major power controlling Shanxi and Henan. Caution was expected, and they believed the patriarch would have a solution, yet Namgung Wushan's subsequent remark left both of them utterly speechless. When she was born, people claimed she resembled me, though I failed to see it then. However, now that she has grown, I finally understand. The training hall master realized the patriarch was reminiscing about his granddaughter rather than pondering serious matters, though he noted she wasn't fully grown and it was premature to confirm her identity. Admitting that granting her the heavenly guest courtyard seemed excessive, Namgung Wushan raised his cup, remarking that if a shared drink could forge a lifelong bond, he would surely recognize his own flesh and blood, leaving Namgung Wen confused. Namgung Wushan argued that the heavenly guest courtyard was actually insufficient rather than excessive, before inquiring if the investigation into the Huowu Pavilion had been conducted. After dealing with the pursuers, men were dispatched to Yunnan, and news was expected soon, when Namgung Wushan suddenly posed a question to the two of them. When asked if the child might harbor a hidden agenda, the training hall master frowned and admitted it was difficult to say, despite his desire to believe in her innocence. Given her past as the young pavilion master of the mysterious Huawu Pavilion, her loyalty to the Namgung family remained uncertain even if she shared their blood, leaving her true intentions in doubt. Abandoning the internal cultivation she had painstakingly mastered was no simple feat, and he confessed that he likely would have been unable to make such a sacrifice himself. He confidently asserted that since she had forsaken her power to choose the Namgung family, she likely had no ulterior motives, though Namgung Wen was quick to disagree. Namgung Wen suggested that their journey together had softened his heart, but he dismissively pouted and denied any such affection, despite clearly favoring the girl. Namgung Wen continued, suggesting that if he still didn't fully trust the child, he should ask her directly about the incident at Mount Hua. It was the perfect opportunity, since the family head traditionally hosted a banquet for the celestial guest courtyard. Whether to trust her or not could be decided later, as the martial arts hall was currently in a state of helplessness. I already said it was fine to trust her. Hearing this, Namgung Wushan couldn't help but smile, truly looking forward to having a meal with his granddaughter. Inside her room, Zhu Hua was practicing diligently. Although she had felt it in the cave, the internal energy of the blood art had a completely different texture now. A pure current of energy flowed through her body and refreshed her acupoints. Though only at the second-class stage, it was far easier to control than the bloodthirsty frenzy of her past life, where she had reached the transformation realm. She believed she would reach that level even faster in this life, yet she knew she couldn't recklessly increase her internal energy before officially learning the Namgung cultivation method. She couldn't just increase her internal energy at will, as the three people she met at the Heavenly Tiger Hall today would certainly find a sudden surge suspicious. No matter how impatient she was, she couldn't risk the trust she had yet to earn. Pretending to be ignorant of her past life knowledge was proving to be quite a nuisance. When Zhu Hua stepped outside, a maid approached her to ask if she needed anything, so she inquired if there was a martial arts hall available for her use. The maid bowed and mentioned a private hall for esteemed guests within the celestial guest courtyard, but Zhu Hua asked if there were any other locations. Upon learning that guests could use any hall in the outer court, she declined the maid's offer to escort her and decided to find the nearest one on her own. Since she couldn't practice internal arts, she focused on external techniques, thinking it better to blend in with the crowd and claim she was just mimicking any Namgung sword style she used, allowing outsiders to witness their training. Even if it was only the basic sword techniques of the outer court, showed that the Namgung clan was remarkably bold. At the training hall of the Scarlet Dragon Squad, one of the 6 martial forces, the Namgung disciples were intensely practicing the first form of the great divination sword technique. Every movement was rhythmic and powerful. As Zhu Hua observed them, she realized these disciples were the foundation that supported the Namgung clan and the starting point for their future strength. Their clean, forceful strikes showed years of practice, yet they had mastered the forms without the essence of the sword. Without real combat experience, they would likely perish before even finishing a technique on a battlefield. She sighed in disappointment at their lack of progress and decided to just train herself. But as she reached for a wooden sword, someone suddenly shouted, asking what she thought she was doing. The man told her it wasn't a toy for children, and when she pointed out other kids were training, he scratched his head and said they were different from her. He explained they were official students, while she looked like a servant who had failed the warrior exam, warning her that she couldn't just sneak in to steal techniques, because swordsmanship wasn't learned through mere imitation. He snatched the sword from her hand and told her to go back to her cleaning duties before she got hurt by a wooden splinter. But Zhu Hua refused to back down. He reached for another wooden sword, which infuriated the man. "You brat, give it here," he shouted, attempting to snatch the sword away again. Yet no matter what he tried, he couldn't even touch Zhu Hua. Finally, he roared in fury, "You brat, how dare you ignore an adult when he's speaking to you? Who taught you such insolence? Where are your servants? I'll teach you a lesson myself." At that moment, Zhu Hua's gaze turned cold. He found it truly annoying. "Hey, why are you staring at me like that? You rude." Before he could finish, he was struck. With just a single blow, Zhu Hua took him down. Lying on the ground in a daze, the man couldn't comprehend how it happened. Zhu Hua calmly remarked, "As expected, this wooden sword suits my stature better." Seeing this, the onlookers began to jeer. "Captain, you said the kid would listen, so why are you sprawled out like that? Did you trip?" Embarrassed and enraged, the captain shouted, "Stop right there. Words alone won't suffice anymore." The captain quickly grabbed a wooden sword from the rack, his anger reaching its peak. "Today, I will teach you the meaning of respect." With a loud cry, the captain lunged at Zhu Hua with great speed, but to his surprise, Zhu Hua was even faster and easily evaded the strike. Seizing the opening, he delivered a decisive blow to the man's right leg. Before long, the captain was overwhelmed, and Zhu Hua eventually disarmed him, sending his sword flying. The entire training ground fell into a stunned silence. The spectators were in disbelief, wondering how it could be so one-sided. It wasn't even a contest anymore. Resting the sword on his shoulder, Zhu Hua asked the captain if he wanted to continue before returning the weapon and telling him not to hold back. The captain took back his sword, his previous confidence completely shattered. However, as a swordsman, he wouldn't back down from a challenge. "Fine, let's see what you've got," he said, while Zhu Hua observed him. His gaze finally shifted as he instinctively began to gauge his opponent's strength. The Namgung family was powerful, but the truly formidable ones were only the patriarch and a few masters. Not every member of the Namgung martial family was strong. In other words, they were sheltered by their family name. Without enemies, complacency was inevitable. Prolonged peace dulls both the blade and the spirit. Zhu Hua wondered if he could sharpen their resolve back into a blade as keen as one newly forged. Could he temper those lost in tranquility and forge them into sharp blades? Did they possess the will to change? The onlookers were now speechless with shock. How was this possible? The captain's sword couldn't land a single hit. Soon, the captain's hand was struck. Zhu Hua analyzed that excessive force doesn't guarantee a good attack. One must first learn how much power they can actually control. Of course, you must also pay attention to speed and direction, he explained while attacking the captain. When you use too much force, your body stiffens. A stiff body cannot swing a sword at will. Furthermore, suddenly the captain was struck on his left leg once more. Seizing the opportunity, Zhu Hua unleashed a full-strength strike that sent the captain flying back with irresistible force. As the dust settled, he was seen gripping his sword firmly, though 3 deep craters marked the ground where he stood as she approached. Your lower body is weak, causing your balance to break, and once your center of gravity shifts, you will naturally be struck repeatedly. The ground will never waver so long as I remain steady. After speaking, she felt a flicker of annoyance, wondering if he had even grasped her meaning, and decided to take her leave since it was becoming difficult to continue training there. The captain stared intently at her back, wondering who that strange child really was, while Zhu Hua departed from the training grounds, realizing she was only drawing unwanted attention to herself. She regretted not simply using the guest courtyard's dojo, thinking her advice was sufficient and that it was now up to them to prove worthy of the Namgung name, as she still hadn't fully mastered her own strength. Since returning to the past, she hadn't had a proper moment of rest, and she realized this childhood body was quite frail as she decided to head back to the heavenly guest courtyard for the day. While lost in thought, Zhu Hua suddenly felt her strength vanish, as if her weak physical form had yet to adapt to the power she possessed. Before she could fall, someone caught her, and the training hall master, seeing her condition, asked with concern what was wrong with her. He noted her poor complexion, and though she claimed she was merely a bit dizzy, the training hall master suddenly hoisted her up despite her demands to be put down. He insisted that the cause of an illness must be identified, and when she asked where he was taking her, he laughed and said they needed an expert's diagnosis. They quickly entered a room where he called for someone to examine the patient, grumbling about the lack of staff, despite his orders for the place to be watched carefully. He told her to wait there for a moment, and as she surveyed the room, she noted that the Namgung family maintained their reputation with exceptionally high-quality medicinal herbs. She admired the skill of the medical hall master, whom she didn't recall meeting in her previous life, wondering if they had simply left when the Namgung family began to decline. It made sense since medical hall masters were often outsiders, and there would be no reason for the Namgung family to retain someone who wasn't of their own blood. At that moment, someone stepped into the room and remarked on the presence of such a charming young lady, prompting Zhu Hua to turn around quickly. A beautiful woman with a squinting smile examined her, commenting on her round eyes and asking who she was since she didn't recognize her. Zhu Hua instinctively took a step back, but the woman continued to press her, comparing her reaction to that of a kitten while Zhu Hua gritted her teeth in silence. She wondered why this woman was here, recognizing her as Du Yue, the ruthless assassin and poison expert who served as the medical hall master of the blood cult, just as the training hall master returned. He told Mao Jige to stop talking nonsense and check the girl's pulse, while Du Yue reached out to her, pitying the child for not even knowing where she was hurting. When Du Yue asked for her hand, Zhu Hua quickly brushed it away and told her not to touch her, but the woman insisted a pulse was needed to find the illness while the girl claimed she wasn't sick. It was unclear what this person did before joining the blood demon's ranks, but he had to remain cautious. He wondered what he should do. The blood demon never forgave traitors, and if Du Yue was his spy, he would surely try to kill him. Jai Wu Guan quickly tried to soothe him. Kid, I'm sorry for bringing you here without asking, but let this man examine you. He's much more skilled than he looks. Du Yue covered his mouth and chuckled. Oh my, call me brother instead. I know you're talented, but one never knows. You haven't been eating or resting properly these past few days. If you let me check your pulse, I'll give you plenty of the candied haws you love. Zhu Hua sighed, realizing he had too few reasons to refuse outright. Even if he spoke the truth, no one would believe him. He thought to himself that it should be fine since Jai Wu Guan was there, so Du Yue wouldn't dare act yet. Fine, he then agreed to let Du Yue check his pulse. Don't worry, I'm just taking a quick look. It feels a bit strange, doesn't it? Just bear with it for a moment. But before Du Yue could finish, Zhu Hua grabbed him by the throat with eyes full of murderous intent, though Jai Wu Guan stopped him. Zhu Hua spoke with rage. So you were planning to kill me? I felt your internal energy shifting. He explained that it was a standard pulse reading to examine the meridians and observe the flow of qi, which allowed Zhu Hua to calm down and release her grip on Du Yue's neck. Instead of being angry, she smiled and noted the child's sharp claws, while Jai Wu frowned and intervened the moment the medical hall master used her energy, sensing a killing intent far beyond a normal assassin. Once he decided to kill, the boy would show no mercy as if he had taken countless lives, after which Zhu Hua stood up and bid her farewell. After she left, Du Yue asked him how he had found such an interesting kitten and inquired about the results of the pulse check regarding his health. He remarked that she had already seen the boy's strength, while Jai Yue closed her eyes and recalled that the encounter was too brief to clearly determine his condition. She noted that he seemed to have consumed something unusual recently, proving she didn't hold her high position for no reason. She mentioned she was once the imperial physician and requested that the kitten be brought back for a more thorough examination, much to his surprise. Her gaze turned serious as she remarked that the child seemed as if he were about to explode, before the scene shifted to two women talking in a secluded room. In their previous lives, Zhu Hua asked Du Yue if she had killed members of the blood cult again, to which Du Yue replied by asking if she had come just to nag. She reminded her that she considered it a harmless hobby and argued that it shouldn't be seen as a significant problem. She pointed out that even the blood demon remained silent, while Zhu Hua noted it was only because Du Yue was one of the 12 moons who had sworn him loyalty. Despite being weaker than the 6 bloodlords, she had been granted a unique moon tablet inscribed with his blood and the secret blood techniques of the poison sect. She questioned why she was being scolded for killing a nobody, while Zhu Hua mentioned she had heard Du Yue was once a doctor for the orthodox sects. Zhu Hua found it hard to believe, and Du Yue's gaze turned dangerous as she cryptically explained she joined the dark cult because someone wanted to kill the moon. Returning to the present, Zhu Hua watched the fish in the pond and wondered who Du Yue had been so intent on killing. She regretted not asking back then, as Namgung Wushan appeared behind her while she wished she had known they would meet again. He asked if something was troubling her, prompting Zhu Hua to respectfully bow and greet the head of the Namgung family. She explained she was simply finding peace in the beautiful garden, to which he replied that he had heard about the recent events. He mentioned a member of the Red Dragon Squad had pointed a sword at her, but she asked him to overlook it since it was only a wooden blade and she was unharmed. He remarked that one must be cautious before wielding a blade, as a martial artist who cannot control their inner self is still lacking in skill. I am not afraid as his internal energy is solid, but you know that power is determined by more than just physical strength, she said, and he replied with a laugh. Yes, you are correct. I once wished you were my granddaughter. You do not resemble a child, for a normal person could never exude such a murderous aura. I see the blood on your hands and the resentment of those you have slain. I had hoped my granddaughter would grow up surrounded by gentleness, living a life far from the battlefield and growing up normally. Pausing for a moment, he asked who had raised her to be this way. She asked if it mattered, and his gaze suddenly sharpened as he replied that it was vital to know who to hold accountable. I will not let the one who turned my granddaughter into this die easily. Even tearing them to pieces or grinding them to dust would not suffice. I will forgive no one who dared to make you suffer, he said, his entire being radiating a terrifying aura before Zhu Hua suddenly spoke. What if I am not your granddaughter? Namgung Wushan looked at her without answering, then gripped his sword and struck it hard against the ground. He told her she was still inexperienced and asked when she would overcome her destiny. She asked if the sword was named Heaven's Mandate, and he nodded, patting her head. When you used to walk with me, you weren't even half as tall as this Heaven's Mandate sword. Let us have dinner tomorrow, as I heard you enjoy fine food. Namgung Wushan smiled benevolently like a doting grandfather and promised to prepare a feast. But that night, a dark aura suddenly emanated from Zhu Hua's room. Inside the room, Zhu Hua was still fast asleep when a deep, somber voice suddenly echoed in her mind, asking what she was doing. Kill them all, slaughter everyone in the Namgung clan, and spill their blood at your feet. Acting unconsciously, Zhu Hua stood up and gripped her sword. A maid called out from outside asking if she needed anything, while the voice in Zhu Hua's head grew clearer, demanding their blood. The next day, the three men were discussing matters in the study, questioning why he couldn't speak more gently instead of threatening to tear people apart. Good heavens, you have no restraint in front of a child. Bei Feng's sword, stop this. Why are you bringing the wager into the conversation? Are you trying to show off your strength? I only wanted to reassure my granddaughter, but they argued that it was a miracle she wasn't terrified. I am still better than someone who constantly fawns over her and reports her every move, he said, before all three sensed an ominous presence. Namgung Wushan's eyes turned cold as he sensed the scent of blood, leading the three of them to Zhu Hua's room where a maid bowed in greeting. Noticing a blood-stained cloth in her hand, he asked whose blood it was, and the maid truthfully replied that it belonged to the guest in the courtyard. The three entered the room, and fortunately, Zhu Hua was only slightly injured, having accidentally cut herself while practicing late at night. I apologize for causing you concern, she said, but Namgung Wushan replied, I've erected a barrier for privacy, so tell me the truth. What happened? It was nothing, I was just careless with my blade, she insisted, as he took her hand and gently tended to the wound while the blood still flowed. I trust you, so you must trust me. As long as you remain with the Namgung, I will protect you, he said, and she nodded in surprise, promising to remember. The head of the medical hall is here, so let her handle the rest. I shall see you at dinner tomorrow, he said as she gently touched Namgung Tian's wrist. He certainly knew this was no accident, yet she wondered how long he would ignore the truth, and if she could ever explain herself once she was clear-headed. She realized that if she hadn't quickly slashed her own hand, someone else would have bled. The voice in her head was surely the blood demon. Cursing her luck, she knew only one person could identify the curse clinging to her, just as Du Yue poked her head into the room. Little kitten, I'm coming in, Du Yue announced as incense smoke filled the room, adding that she had lit a sedative, though it might still be painful. Tell me if the pain is too much, she said, while Jai Wu Guan stood guard outside. Du Yue smiled broadly, impressed that the girl wasn't crying. You truly are a brave little kitten, Du Yue remarked. But Zhu Hua mentioned another injury and asked for help, prompting an angry "where?" from Jai Wu Guan. When asked where else she was hurt, she pointed to her abdomen. He was both frustrated and worried, but she meant the area from her chest to her belly. Upon hearing this, the two women immediately gave him a look that signaled him to leave. He asked if they wanted him out, and they confirmed it. I think I have internal injuries. Can you check? She asked, and Du Yue agreed but noted it required internal energy, pleased that the girl finally trusted her. Let me check, just try to relax, Du Yue said as a glow emanated from the wound. And suddenly, Zhu Hua's voice echoed directly within Du Yue's mind. Have you ever harbored a murderous aura? She asked via telepathy, and Du Yue, surprised by the method, asked for clarification before admitting she once had. When asked if she still felt that way, Du Yue replied that she didn't because the person was dead, explaining she killed him for harming the one she loved. Do you still have someone you love? She asked, and Du Yue, realizing the true nature of the question, asked if that person was currently within the Namgung family. That is a difficult question to answer, as it could be both yes and no. Is that answer sufficient for you? Zhu Hua confirmed it was, thinking that while she lacked the devotion to protect the Namgung, she harbored no malice toward them nor any significant grudges. To swear fealty to Zhu Mo, although those words could not be fully trusted, one thing was certain. She was still in love with someone. Unlike the Du Yue of his past life, who killed for sport, he quietly hid a knife in his sleeve and suddenly spoke a name that startled Du Yue. I know your other name, Zhu Wang Du. Zhu Hua thought that perhaps she would live a different life this time and would have to help him, ideally by opposing Zhu Mo. In the past, a village was once drenched in blood by the second prince, simply because a lowly woman dared to refuse him, as the nobility often enjoyed such depraved games. Thus, the destruction of a village was not rare, but the truly unusual thing was the sole surviving child who entered the palace as a physician's assistant until the second prince was poisoned to death. As the name Zhu Wang Du faded from public memory, Zhu Hua could not help but wonder how she had later managed to enter the Namgung family. Du Yue asked fearfully what those words meant, but he clarified beforehand that he had not investigated her past to avoid any misunderstanding. It was just that in his previous life, she had been annoyingly persistent, so he reached out his hand and told her to be at ease, for his request was simple. Please examine my body thoroughly once more, for I am under a curse, which Du Yue concluded was a suggestion, a dark art used to control the mind. By forcing the victim to perform certain actions, There are two ways to break it. Either kill the caster or allow oneself to be completely dominated, and then rebel until the curse is lifted. Du Yue analyzed that he was able to wake up today because the master of the suggestion was not nearby. A weak bond can be easily broken, but a strong one is extremely difficult, meaning the master could find and control him at any time, warning that he remained in his grasp. "I will come for you personally," that was his message, and Zhu Hua worried that although he had asked Chu Lion for another solution, waiting might be too late. What should he do? Perhaps hide in the mountains and let the control take over, though he knew he would not be left alone given the number of assassins. The number of people sent by the Wu Guang sect was already vast, so he needed someone who could attract public attention and serve as a distraction. Someone who could do what a child's body could not, and most importantly, someone who would become a powerful force and his ally. At this time, the captain was practicing alone, remembering his fight with Zhu Hua and how incredibly fast his movements and swordplay were. "I am coming," the captain thought, having seen the attack but being unable to block it, wondering why as he parried his strikes with his sword. Because his footing was not firm, his muscles were too tense, causing his body to stiffen, and instead of reading his opponent, he swung his sword blindly. Indeed, he finally realized the gap between them was due to a difference in experience, and looking at his sword on the ground, he mocked his own weakness. He bent down to retrieve his sword, feeling quite disappointed, but as he looked up and met Zhu Hua's gaze, he bowed with clasped hands to greet the young hero, who told him there was no need for such formality and to be as relaxed as he was yesterday. Feeling slightly embarrassed, he apologized for his rudeness the previous day when he mistook her for a new maid, but she replied that she was likely the one who had been disrespectful. She wondered if she had completely lost face yesterday as they formally introduced themselves. She called herself Zhu Hua, while he identified as Namgung before she stepped forward to remark that his sword seemed much sharper today. It was the blade of a warrior facing an enemy, and when she asked who his imaginary opponent was, his hesitant expression made her realize that he had been picturing her. Zhu Hua waved her hand dismissively, saying it was fine and better than a lifeless sword if he wasn't just holding it for show. She urged him to keep practicing with an enemy in mind, and he thanked her again, stating her guidance had been invaluable. He asked if the young hero would only be staying at the Namgung residence for a short while, and for how long, to which she replied she wasn't sure, prompting him to shyly suggest she stay longer if possible, and ask if she would mind a request. He asked if he could seek further guidance during her stay, noting that simply observing her practice would suffice without taking much of her time, and she calmly agreed, leaving him in disbelief as she confirmed her answer. She said observing was no problem and asked if she could choose the training location, to which he naturally agreed and asked if she had a place in mind. She told him to come to the martial arts hall of the Heavenly Guest Courtyard tomorrow between 5 and 7 in the evening, a name that startled him as he realized his suspicions about her being extraordinary were correct. He was stunned to realize that this child was the mysterious and most honored guest who had recently caused such a stir within the entire clan. By the time afternoon arrived, Zhu Hua changed into a new outfit resembling that of a noble young lady to meet her grandfather, Namgung Wushan, who smiled and waved her over, telling her to make herself comfortable. With the servants dismissed, he told her there was no need for hesitation, so she sat down and thanked him for his concern before he urged her to eat, assuming she must be hungry. He remarked that it was his first time seeing someone utilize high-grade spirit wings in such a manner before asking about her injury, but she replied that it no longer hurt as she wasn't very sensitive to pain. When he asked what she meant by not being sensitive, Zhu Hua explained while eating that she had nearly lost her life when she was only 5 years old. She explained that someone had forcibly transferred internal energy into her body to save her, causing her to lose both her memories and her sense of feeling, all while stuffing her mouth with delicious food. He wondered if her radiant complexion came from eating such high-quality food, before suddenly asking if her savior was the master of the Hua Wu Lu, and when she confirmed it, he asked why she had betrayed him. She stated with certainty that she believed he was the one who wanted her dead, adding that the Namgung family stood no chance of defeating them. She warned that the Namgung family would not survive a direct confrontation right now, and when Namgung Wushan asked if she was serious, she confirmed it, prompting him to say he would take action. She asked what would happen if 3 of the world's 10 strongest experts appeared, noting they could kill half the high-ranking leaders but would struggle to survive, then wondered about the outcome if there were 5. She claimed they could destroy the Hua Wu Lu, but still fail to kill its master, causing Namgung Wushan to frown at such an absurd statement as his gaze sharpened, demanding that she tell him more. Who exactly are they? Zhu Hua did not answer, instead dipping her finger into her tea and slowly writing the words, restriction seal, on the table before raising a hand to her lips. Her expression was grave as she looked at him, indicating she was under duress and unable to speak. Upon realizing the truth, Namgung Wu Tian stood up in shock, drenched in a cold sweat. A restriction seal. Is that not the type of sorcery where the slightest disclosure of information causes one's blood vessels to explode, resulting in immediate death? I had assumed they were merely a common underworld sect, but I never imagined they were secretly holding a blade to the Namgung family's throat. A great storm is surely coming. Namgung Wu Tian asked why no one knew of this terrifying power yet, and she replied that some were hiding their existence and blinding everyone. His eyes widened as he realized there was a traitor, while Zhu Hua looked down. Do you still trust me? I have only one more question. Why did you return to the Namgung family? She looked him in the eye and said it was to prevent the Namgung clan's downfall. Because I am also a member of the Namgung family. Namgung Wu Tian closed his eyes and sighed, remarking that it was difficult to fully believe everything she had said. I must observe your actions within the Namgung clan and see how you intend to save us. As the patriarch, I will stop you if you do anything to harm the family. I will intervene at any moment, yet he added that if her actions were truly for the clan's sake, he would become her greatest shield. This was the promise of the Namgung patriarch. Kunming, Huwu Pavilion, Yunnan Province. A masked, red-haired youth was drinking on a rooftop, wondering why Zhu Hua would submissively follow the Wind Thunder God, as another person spoke up. Yes, the ones who killed the cultists following the young pavilion master were the Wind Thunder God's subordinates, and the young pavilion master knew, but did not stop them. He raised his wine cup, wondering how that child could know when her memories had been erased. A subordinate asked if they should quietly eliminate her for her betrayal and theft, but he was indifferent. Do you think she can just leave freely? Do not worry, she will come back on her own. Do you really intend to take back the one who killed our brothers? If that child can be reclaimed at the cost of a few worthless lives, it is a bargain. Do you have any objections, Po Yue? No, how could I dare to be dissatisfied with your will? The young man brushed past Po Yue, noting that the day was near, and they should let her run wild then, though he wanted to check on how she was living. I must give her a gift, send her that item. Back at the Namgung residence, Zhu Hua's wounds were being carefully bandaged and tended to by Du Yue. As you suspected, there are traces of a restriction seal engraved upon her. Namgung Wu Tian asked if it could be removed, but was told it was impossible through medical arts. Unless the caster removes it themselves, it cannot be undone. Zhu Hua suddenly said it would fade over time and vanish once they finally revealed themselves. For at that time, their names will be known throughout the world. He warned her that this involved her life and not to take it lightly, and she promised to be careful. Is there anything else? Her senses have become numbed. Surely you know how dangerous it is for a martial artist to be unable to feel pain. That person will lose the ability to gauge the severity of their wounds, or how long they can endure if they fail to recognize the warnings sent by their senses. In the martial world, where life and death are decided in a mere heartbeat, how do they expect to survive, and is there anything more? This child's bloodline is unstable. I heard her internal energy was previously purged from her body, which might be the cause, he said, stepping behind Zhu Hua. Sit still while I use my internal energy to examine your body, he said as a surge of power radiated from his palm, slowly forming the phantom of a true dragon. He told her that she had endured a vast stretch of time to return, noting how cruel those 8 years were before welcoming her home. It would have been better if you could have met your father in a healthier state. What a shame, he said, and as she replied, someone suddenly shouted for the eldest young master. I have yet to report to the family head. This man truly has poor timing and must have arrived already. Namgung Wen thought, startled to see the eldest young master. Zhu Hua's gaze immediately locked onto the figure before her, recognizing him as the father and the final sword of the Namgung family she had once killed, Namgung Cheng Namgung. Tears fell from his eyes upon seeing Zhu Hua, and even she felt an indescribable tightness in her chest, until Namgung Wu Tian spoke to break the awkward silence between them. Why are you crying so disgracefully? Check her first to be sure, Namgung Wu Tian said, prompting Namgung Cheng Yun to sit and ask to examine her body as she inquired about the reason. Powerful families attract many enemies, and many have attempted to kidnap or swap the clan's children to exploit our weaknesses. Thus, I personally carved a mark on your body at birth. Though they look like 5 ordinary moles to others, they form a dragon when connected behind your left hand and right collarbone, under the left index fingernail, the right knee, and the left heel, and sure enough, there was a black mole on Zhu Hua's left ankle. Everyone present watched the scene in silence as Namgung Cheng Yun reached out his hand, and then, unable to restrain himself, pulled Zhu Hua into a tight embrace. It is said that men should shed blood but not tears, yet he wept upon reuniting with his daughter after over a decade apart, declaring that this was his daughter, Zhu Hua. "Zhu Hua, I am your father," he said, and moved by his sincere words, she hugged him tightly as he remarked on how much she had grown. Inside the room, Namgung Chengyun gently washed his daughter's feet, noting that they were covered in scars and wounds with no part left uninjured. "My eyes are bloodshot, but I feel no shame. On the contrary, I am overjoyed," he said, while Zhu Hua thought that her father, laughing through his tears, was truly incomprehensible. Namgung Chengyun suddenly asked if she knew why she was named Zhu Hua, explaining that snow is the most beautiful flower from heaven, and she arrived on the day it blanketed the world. "Your mother gave you the name Zhu Hua because she loved you immensely, and though you may not remember her, she has always cherished you deeply. From 8 years ago until now, even after passing on, never forget that truth." He folded his arms with a gentle smile, saying he was truly happy she had returned. She was also glad to be back, so he asked if she wanted to stroll through the city tomorrow to see the streets of Afei again, where she used to run around like it was her own backyard. She thought to herself that she wanted to study the Namgung heart law tomorrow, but he reminded her of a Tanghulu shop she loved as a child and asked if she wanted to visit. Hearing that, she immediately changed her mind. As Namgung Kingyun's daughter, she would fulfill her filial duties in this life, and her response echoed from the room. "Yes, I would love to." Meanwhile, at the courtyard of the second young master, Namgung Qinghai was practicing calligraphy while questioning his subordinate about the rumors. He asked if the guest at the heavenly guest courtyard was a young girl, and Namgung Hyuluo of the Yellow Dragon Squad confirmed the reliable information. This was one of the 6 combat units of the Namgung clan, consisting of warriors named Yellow Dragon, Azure Dragon, Red Dragon, White Dragon, and Black Dragon. Namgung Qinghai wondered if she was a descendant of a great clan or a sect heir, as it was strange to grant the guest courtyard unless her martial arts rivaled his father's. He heard her internal energy hadn't even reached the first-class level, though she could be a master who knew how to conceal her power from the servants. Namgung Hyuluo agreed it was uncertain, but mentioned an interesting rumor that the eldest young master was with the guest, making Namgung Qinghai wonder if his brother had returned. His brother was supposed to be traveling for at least 3 days, yet he was already back and staying with the guest at the heavenly guest courtyard. If she was a guest of that caliber, she must be influential in the Central Plains, leading him to worry his brother was returning to build his own faction. He felt anxious because his father wanted his brother to be the young clan leader. Though the elders supported him, everything would change if his brother returned. Namgung Hyuluo told him not to worry, as the servants reported that the eldest young master was simply doting on the guest and even carrying her around the garden. His eyes widened, wondering if this girl was the reason his brother returned and if he had finally found Zhu Hua, while Namgung Hyuluo insisted the brother would return to the clan. He urged the master not to wait for his position to be stolen and to strike before his brother could settle in, promising the support of 3 combat squads. Next day, Zhibin trained with Zhu Hua again, but he soon collapsed on the ground, gasping for air and claiming he couldn't take any more as she approached. She asked if he was complaining after only 50 pounds, but he angrily shouted that it was actually 500 pounds across his limbs without any internal energy. He argued that no one could endure such sword training, but she innocently asked if the Namgung clan didn't train this way, concluding that was why he was so weak. He stammered that he wasn't weak, but her next words pierced his pride as she pointed out how he constantly dropped his sword and stumbled at every opening. Looking closely today, he was all talk. Seeing him so dejected and lacking will, she spoke angrily, asking how long he planned to stay like that. He suddenly raised his hand and said it was fine. He understood without the harsh words and he would do it. Despite his exhaustion, he forced himself to say he could continue training, but he soon regretted those words, wondering why he had even said them. As time passed, the pressure of the weights on him grew heavier. He wondered why he was told to stop mid-thrust. How much longer would this last? He felt like he was about to collapse. Suddenly, his body felt significantly lighter. As it turned out, Zhu Hua was standing beside him, supporting his sword with just one hand. She asked how he felt, noting he seemed lighter, but upon closer inspection, she was only using a single finger. He asked what she had done, as the weight seemed to have vanished. She explained that she was distributing the weight across his entire body, noting that while he possessed great strength, he had a habit of exerting it all at once. Even with dangerous attacks, momentum fades if a battle drags on. Simply throwing everything into a single strike is not the only way. Her eyes resembled those of a predator on the hunt, suggesting that when facing a difficult opponent, one must be cautious and wait for the right moment to counterattack. Till that opportunity arises, the body must be able to minimize the strain on its strength. One must maintain a balanced physique and practice distributing power evenly throughout the body, just like this. Zhu Hua suddenly let go, causing Zhai Ping to lose his balance and fall face first onto the ground. She declared that was enough for today, and he respectfully clasped his hands, thanking the young hero for the instruction. He expressed his sincere gratitude, saying that thanks to her, he had caught a glimpse of the realm he aspired to reach. When asked if he was all right, he replied that despite the fatigue, he realized this training was necessary. He was fine, never imagining that carrying heavy weights could be so significant. She smiled and told him to get used to it now that he understood. She said he should at least be able to lift 50 pounds easily with one hand. He hesitantly asked how much she herself could lift. She mentioned she could currently lift about 300 pounds, but still needed much more practice. He thought to himself that 300 pounds was equivalent to 1,200 pounds of normal strength, wondering if such a thing was truly possible. She suggested that from tomorrow, he should bring any martial artists who wanted to train, as practicing together would provide motivation and encouragement. When he asked if she was sure, she confirmed, noting it would help build the foundation for the Namgung family. Zhai Ping looked at her with admiration, noting how she could control power just by touching a sword. He wondered how much worse the others would be, certain she was a master who had reached the realm of being one with the sword. Yet she did not hesitate to teach ordinary martial artists like them. He saw it as a wonderful opportunity to grow stronger together and vowed to bring the others. She told him to bring as many as possible, and he excitedly raised his hand, promising to bring a large crowd. Amidst the bustling streets, Namgung Qingyun was leading Zhu Hua on a walk through the city. He told her to hold his hand tightly because of the crowds. She agreed, suggesting they should eat first, and when he asked what she wanted, she looked up to speak. She said she knew a good restaurant and suggested they go there. Soon, a steaming bowl of noodles was placed on the table. He noted they were having buns and thin noodles, a dish he also enjoyed, thanking her for giving him the chance to taste it again after so long. Before starting her meal, she politely offered a bun to her father and invited him to eat. "Thank you, I will enjoy it," he said. "Yes," she replied. As she ate, she thought that she finally understood why the wind thunder god liked this shop so much. How could this be even more delicious than the food at the Namgung residence? Her eyes were fixed on the glistening buns, as she wondered why she hadn't known of this place in her previous life. Perhaps they had retired after making a fortune, or maybe this shop simply hadn't existed back then. Namgung Qingyun reached out and gently stroked her head, remarking on how wonderful it was to see her eating so well and telling her to grow up quickly. While they were dining, an angry voice suddenly rang out. "When did we ever say we wouldn't pay?" a group nearby shouted while causing a commotion. "I told you I'd pay the full amount next time. I just forgot my coin purse today. But you have said that dozens of times already. Please settle your debt today so we can continue our business," the server pleaded. The man grew furious and grabbed the server, shouting, "Hey, how dare you talk back to me? Do you not know who we are?" the man demanded. The server could only beg for mercy, saying, I know very well. How could I not recognize the martial artists of the Namgung family?" Upon hearing those words, Namgung Qingyun's gaze instantly turned cold. "The peaceful residents of Afei all remember you, so how could I not? I am just," the server stammered. Before he could finish, he was slammed against the wall. The man sat down and mocked him, saying, "You'd better be sensible. We are exhausted from protecting the peace of Afei, yet you look down on us over the price of some buns and noodles." The server trembled and avoided his gaze, but this was not the first time this had happened. Even the other patrons in the shop looked away, pretending not to see anything. "I told you I forgot my purse," the man repeated. Facing them, the server finally gave in and said, "I understand, please just make sure to bring it next time." The bearded man laughed loudly and said, "There isn't that much better." He then nonchalantly led his men away, calling out, "I'll really bring it next time. Thanks for the meal." As the door closed, another person rushed over and asked anxiously, "Father, are you all right? We can't let this continue. It's best to report this to the authorities." "Forget it," the father replied. "They are martial artists from the Namgung family. Would the authorities even take our side?" Namgung Qingyun suddenly stood up and said, "Zhu Hua, you keep eating. I will be right back, so stay right here." She thought to herself that he was pretending to be discreet, but he had clearly stationed guards in the corner to ensure she couldn't go anywhere. She wondered if he was going to punish those men. He certainly wouldn't let it slide since they had the audacity to exploit the Namgung name right in front of a Namgung. The door closed, leaving her to wonder how they would be disciplined. A while later, Namgung Qingyun returned and told his daughter that he had identified the men and ordered them back to the clan for self-reflection. He also docked 3 months of their pay to give that money to the shop owner. "And then what?" she asked. "What do you mean, that's it?" he replied. Surprised, she asked, "Aren't you going to cut off their hands or tongues?" Her words startled the old man. Hands and tongues, he stammered. She calmly replied, if they dare to use martial arts with such malice, their hands should be severed. And since they used their tongues to tarnish the family's reputation, those should be cut out as well. She believed that if this were the blood cult, the matter would never have ended so simply. But the Namgung family belongs to the righteous faction, Namgung Kingyun replied. We do not sever hands or tongues. Why not? She asked. If you cut off their hands, they will no longer be able to wield a sword as martial artists. And if their tongues are severed, they will never eat or speak normally again. That is what a true punishment entails. However, they ought to be granted an opportunity to repent. With that, the conversation concluded as the two returned to their meal, though Namgung Kingyun's gaze toward Zhu Hua had shifted. It had become somewhat different. After finishing their lunch, the father and daughter resumed their stroll, with Zhu Hua enjoying a stick of candied hawthorns along the way. At that moment, a roadside vendor began pitching his wares, claiming the gentleman had a keen eye and that he had just acquired a stunning piece, while Namgung Kingyun turned to ask Zhu Hua, do you want to see this bracelet? Father, you already bought me a hairpin. Only getting one thing seems like a waste, doesn't it? She sighed in resignation, noting he had already bought her a floral cord and a ring as well. I still believe it would suit you. She secretly thought the old man was quite a nuisance for ruining her appetite. Suddenly, she called out to him, and he responded with shimmering eyes. I need to use the restroom. Is there a latrine nearby? A short while later, Zhu Hua was in a different room, having decided that renting a guest room would be sufficient for her needs. This will make it much easier for me to take action. I am unsure how much time I have, and it will be quite problematic if the guards realize I have vanished, especially since those men I encountered earlier certainly had familiar faces. It might be best to strike before they commit any foul acts. Guards are stationed at the gate, the first floor, and even on the roof. If I circle around the back of the building, then I can avoid their gaze. She silently promised her father she would return soon. Meanwhile, the three men were grumbling to each other about their misfortune of being caught by Great Lord How Long. Damn it, those people who never pay attention to sister and on the street. Why did they suddenly emerge from that tavern? Honestly, it was a bit excessive, wasn't it? If you eat for free every day, you're bound to get caught. The buns at that shop are the best, after all. You enjoyed them too, so how can you say that now? Just be quiet. We'll be discovered at this rate. Discovered my foot, move aside. The other side is being even louder. Do you really think that Inn will get back the money we owe? The Namgung family values appearances, don't they? Naturally, they will compensate the shop for all its losses. The three spoke as they ran, wondering if they could return to cause more trouble since their wages were docked. They ducked into a corner, figuring the Namgung family only cared about saving face. They wouldn't bother with the shop anymore. We just need to intimidate the owner so he doesn't report us to the Namgung family. The bearded man chuckled and agreed, asking if the Namgung people had left yet. Wait a moment, the pillar is blocking my view so I can't see clearly. Let me check. Just then, a cold voice rang out, asking what they were doing. They were startled and broke into a cold sweat, wanting to turn around but finding themselves powerless to move. Their bodies wouldn't budge. Don't bother struggling, I've struck your paralysis points. You won't be able to move for at least an hour. By the way, I've also struck your mute points. You won't even be able to scream. The three looked at each other in terror, wondering when their comrades had been taken down. Zhu Hua then clearly recited each of their names. Li Namgung, Yilong, San Feng. Why do I see men like you serving as warriors for the Namgung family? I know your kind will do anything for money. You likely spun all sorts of lies about wanting a fresh start just to join the Namgung family as warriors. Also, you could plunder with impunity. In their past lives, these men once joined the blood cult, having been thieves from the Green Forest before that. Forgive me, father, but these people won't change even if given the chance. They will eventually betray the Namgung family and return to the blood cult, for they are nothing but scum. Zhu Hua said coldly that even offering them a chance to repent would be a waste. I want to kill you right here, but I will spare you since you are still members of the Namgung family. One of them thought to himself that, although he didn't know who she was, she seemed to fear crossing the Namgung family. Good, I'll survive. However, while he wasn't paying attention, Zhu Hua forced him to swallow something. By the time he regained his senses, he had already swallowed it. What was that? What did I just gulp down? Zhu Hua spoke calmly. I said I would spare you, but I never said I would let you go. Now, with just a flick of my finger, you will all die. Hearing this, they were consumed by terror. Could it be goo poison? Goo are insects where if one feels pain, the other does as well. If the mother bug is killed, the male bug residing in a person's head or heart will explode. Zhu Hua flashed a dark smile, asking if they wanted a demonstration. She could kill one of them so the others could see for themselves. I'm done for today as I'm short on time, but we shall meet again soon. Behave yourselves until then. Her eyes were sharp with killing intent. If you cause more trouble, you already know what the consequences will be. Under that gaze, the three felt a chill down their spines and dared not speak. Meanwhile, Namgung Kingyun had been waiting outside for his daughter for a long time. A subordinate was about to open the door to check since there was no sound, but before he could do so, Zhu Hua quickly stepped out. The man quickly made an excuse about losing his pouch. He thought to himself that he hadn't even heard her breathing earlier, which had made him worry for nothing. Namgung Kingyun asked if she was finished, and she apologized for the wait. He told her it was fine but helped tidy her disheveled clothes. Inside a villa on Mount Hua, two people were conversing about the rumors that a child who was once a young pavilion master of the proud flower pavilion had stolen a great restoration pill. The child then immediately headed toward the Namgung family. This speaker was Liu Bai, the martial arts hall master of Mount Hua. Liu Bai told the person behind the bamboo curtain that the great restoration pill was reportedly stolen by the Heian gang on the Shanxi-Henan border. Doesn't that match the sect that ambushed us? Sect leader, if the child hasn't consumed the pill yet, we still have a chance. We must retrieve the pill immediately. The person behind the curtain asked Liu Bai if he didn't find it strange that a rumor was so detailed. Furthermore, it reached us at the perfect time. You suggest the rumor is unreliable, yet I know we have no other choice. Very well, that child must be brought to the Namgung residence. That night, Zhu Hua had a strange dream where she felt trapped and controlled by something. She woke up with a wound on her hand, and Du Yue had to come to bandage it, remarking that this was becoming quite a problem for the young lady. I am hiding the matter of the mental suggestion at your request, but if you keep getting hurt, I will be forced to report it. Then I will also reveal that your true identity is the Blood King poison. Du Yue looked around in a panic, fearing someone might hear. I used sound transmission, didn't I? Really, it was so natural I didn't notice. I truly wonder what goes on in that little head of yours. She is more like a tiger than a stray cat. We will see when she grows up. How annoying. I have some news our little tiger cub might like. Should I tell you? Zhu Hua looked intrigued, as if she had grown ears and a tail. The family head wants to personally perform the marrow cleansing for you. Marrow cleansing? You mean the great technique that transfers internal energy into the body? Du Yue smiled and confirmed it. He will help you expel the accumulated evil qi and clear your meridians. It seems he realized your blood vessels were troubled and put much thought into this. Before proceeding, he even came to confirm with me if it would harm the young lady. She is truly cherished. Hearing this, Zhu Hua's hands tightened slightly. Bone cleansing and marrow refining is essentially a master using internal energy to reconstruct another's physique. If performed incorrectly, the practitioner could suffer from qi deviation, so even masters rarely dare to risk it. Receiving bone cleansing and marrow refining from an expert with such exceptional control over energy is likely what one calls a stroke of divine luck. Furthermore, the effects are even more potent when the practitioner shares the same bloodline. Since she is still young, she can develop a martial artist's physique faster than anyone else. Her internal energy is currently only at the second-rate level, but she could immediately ascend to the first-rate rank. Perhaps she might even surpass her previous life. At that thought, her eyes sparkled with intensity. Seeing this, Du Yue playfully asked if she was that happy, making her blush with embarrassment. Du Yue smiled broadly, her cold expression from when her hand was injured completely gone. It turns out she can show emotion after all. Is it that obvious? Why keep pretending? She rubbed her chin, thinking that compared to a tiger cub, the girl looked rather adorable. A short while later, Zhu Hua changed into feminine attire. Recalling Du Yue's compliment, she thought to herself, who exactly is adorable? From the maid to Chu Lion, she wondered what they were looking at to say such things. Is everyone from the Namgung family this strange? They invite me to a banquet at their maternal home every single time. Inside the room, everyone was engaged in conversation. I gave those guys a proper lesson. I did well, didn't I, father? You need to learn how to restrain your spirit. Qing Shan, you haven't even asked your senior brother's opinion yet. Why is Qing Hai always so argumentative? Zhu Hua thought to herself, recognizing the voices of those she had once killed. Now she truly had to become part of their family. Family? Suddenly, a voice from behind the martial arts hall spoke up, asking why she wasn't going in since she had already arrived. Why are you just standing there? Because it sounds pleasant, she replied. What sounds pleasant? The laughter. She explained that she had never shared a meal with people she could call family, so it felt unfamiliar. Although she once viewed the blood demon as a father and the members of the blood cult as brothers, calling them family wasn't right, as they were always looking for a chance to kill one another. She was the same. Hearing of someone's death never left her feeling empty or like she had lost anything. She suddenly asked him if people feel sad when their family dies. Little one? Yes. Huh. He simply reached out toward her and suddenly gave her forehead a painful, powerful flick. Then he shouted angrily, asking what kind of world-weary question she was posing. Stop thinking about such useless things. Zhu Hua rubbed her forehead in pain, but argued that it was a valid thought. If it were me, I would spend that time practicing martial arts more, he said. Becoming strong is enough to protect one's family. He frowned, adding that before protecting a family, she must first learn how to protect herself. Why is it that every time you return, there are new injuries I didn't know about? Do you not understand how vital hands are to a swordsman? If you keep this up, no one will accept your help even if you want to give it. He roared with fury, stating he couldn't stand there giving her a full lecture. In short, I will be keeping a close eye on you from now on, understood? Yes, she replied. Zhu Hua thought to herself that the master of the martial arts hall was right. There was no time to wallow in guilt. The past is unalterable, so I must now focus on the present Namgung family and the internal turmoil they face. I am the one who will bring about change. Entering the room, she bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, elders, I am Zhu Hua." Namgung Qinghai smiled and replied, "Zhu Hua, welcome home. It is like seeing your childhood face again. You have worked hard." He turned to the youth beside him and said, "Xiao Long, greet her. She is your senior sister, older than you by 6 months." Xiao Long thought to himself, "I have lived comfortably as the eldest grandson until now. Why did she suddenly appear and expect to be treated as an elder sister?" He replied with slight displeasure, "Nice to meet you." Another woman also prompted her child. "Wang, you should greet her too." The boy spoke politely. "I have heard much about you, sister. I am Wang, and I am glad you have returned." Zhu Hua happily replied, "Thank you." At the banquet, everyone chatted cheerfully. "I never imagined the guest in the guest courtyard would be you. It is quite a surprise. I used to carry you on my shoulders when you were little. Do you remember? Seeing you again in such good health is a blessing. I was astonished when I heard you returned on your own. In the blink of an eye, you have become a beautiful young lady. This is Hua Lan, whom you likely haven't met. Hua Lan, greet your senior sister quickly. She is very timid, please forgive her." "It is fine," Zhu Hua thought. "Since we will be living under the same roof anyway, there is no need to become close immediately." Suddenly, the little girl held out a candied fruit skewer. "Is this for me?" "Zhu Hua, Hua Lan wants to give that to you." The girl then shyly hid behind her mother's clothes. Namgung Wu Tian burst into laughter. "What a wonderful sight. Tomorrow, I shall announce Zhu Hua's return during the elders' meeting. From now on, you must all cherish Zhu Hua." "Yes, father, of course. I will carry her many times." Even Hua Lan nodded vigorously. "Even if she pulls out all my hair, I would not complain." Since everyone was present, he set down his wine cup and said, "I will also announce the decision I made this morning. I intend to perform marrow cleansing and bone refining for Zhu Hua." The room fell silent instantly. Namgung Qingyun asked anxiously, "Is it the same marrow cleansing and bone refining I am thinking of? Is there any other kind of marrow cleansing and bone refining?" "Then I heard correctly," Namgung Qinghai remarked. "This is far too perilous. Father, are you not the pillar of the Namgung family? I fear your body will suffer if something goes wrong." He asked, "What could go wrong? Do you doubt my strength?" "I was only speaking of the possibility of misfortune. If one fears bad luck, then very little can be achieved in this world. So, father, this is a settled decision rather than a discussion." Namgung Qinghai thought to himself. "If that is the case, then not only my dreams, but also Xiao Long's path to becoming the next family head will be pushed further away." Namgung Qingshan stood up and spoke. "No, calling this a welcome gift seems a bit excessive. Does the child even desire this?" He firmly asserted that she was the granddaughter who had survived and returned after 8 years. "As Namgong's grandfather and elder, is there anything I wouldn't do for her?" "Father, you speak of marrow cleansing too lightly. Isn't it what people call heavenly luck or a divine opportunity for the Namgung family? Is there any bond stronger than family?" Namgung Qingshan retorted angrily to his father. "If that's the case, why have you never done the same for us? Please do it for Hualan as well." The old man slammed the table and stood up, his expression darkening. "How can you let your personal greed lead you to prove your own shallowness?" Seeing this, his children dared not say another word. "Fine, the meal is over. Zhu Hua, follow me." Having no choice, she could only follow her grandfather. Behind her, the family watched. Her 2 uncles stared intently at her. Zhu Hua thought to herself that every clan truly has its internal struggles. It was indeed a battlefield. Zhu Hua suddenly asked a question that made him stop. "Am I causing trouble?" He stood with his hands behind his back. "Why are you worried about that? I see that everyone finds it hard to accept." He laughed and replied, "They will think I am heartless while Qingyun is away. I have never discussed the next clan leader, nor have I used my internal power to nurture the children. Talents are scarce. One only knows how to calculate, and the other lacks respect. How can they be like the sky?" She wondered why he was suddenly talking about the heavens. "The Namgung people liken themselves to the sky. Do Do you know why? If we speak of the traits of the Namgung people you've met, it is a spirit that would rather lose than surrender, people willing to sacrifice their lives in the name of Namgung. She questioned herself inwardly. Why were they so devoted to the Namgung family? Was it because their internal energy carried the blue color of the sky? He asked in return, if so, how do you explain those without the blue color? He continued, the order is wrong. The Namgung family practices the martial arts of the heavens. That is why their internal energy has a blue tint. Sometimes there are those with unique colors. Even if they practice the same martial art, everyone has their own ambitions and character. He gestured toward the moon. Those who long for the sunset sky carry an orange hue, while those who yearn for the night sky bear a black shade. Every heart carrying a will can possess a different color, his hand clenched into a fist. And all those skies unite as one, living a life of nobility, upright and honorable, like the deep blue sky looking down upon the world, following the laws of heaven and walking the righteous path. That is what the Namgung family calls chivalry. He frowned. A member of the Namgung family must always maintain the spirit of the heavens, yet those youngsters still seem to have much to learn. She thought that he had likely been troubled by this for a long time. Namgung Wushan was a man like the sky. As the clan leader, he maintained his pride. But he also knew how to use overwhelming power to win people over. Was that truly feasible? Poisons, dark arts, spies, and betrayals, vile tactics were endless. The Namgung family had once collapsed due to the blood cult's despicable schemes. Zhu Hua suddenly spoke up. A straight tree breaks easily, and once broken, it can never stand again. Is that correct, grandfather? Hearing that, Namgung Wushan fell into deep thought, as it was a difficult question. Honestly, I would rather break than bend. But isn't a bent tree harder to snap? If survival is the only goal, isn't it best to live even if we stray slightly from the family's teachings? He pointed a finger at his own head. The spirit is what truly matters. A tree with its roots intact will eventually regrow, and no matter how long it takes, it will surely live again. A bent tree's trunk never grows strong and its roots are loose. Such trees will not last 100 years. Do you understand? As long as the roots remain, as long as the spirit is passed down, that is enough. For one day it will sprout and grow fresh again. She remembered her past life, where she died right after the Namgung family fell. Thus, she did not know if Namgung Wushan's words were true. Was it really so? Would the sprouts that weren't cut down grow up and defeat the blood cult? Until their final moments, those people protected the family's secret techniques. In reality, the blood cult was never able to break their spirit. He suddenly asked, what do you think? Do you still want to live as a member of the Namgung family? I will announce your return at tomorrow's elders' meeting, but if you refuse, I can keep your existence a secret. Zhu Hua listened to him in silence. You are the child the Namgung family has sought for 8 years. Once your status as a Namgung is officially recognized, can you imagine how much attention will be focused on you? No matter where you go or what you do, everyone will be watching you. They will scrutinize your every action, criticize you, and falsely accuse you. I worry that you will find it difficult to bear all of that. Zhu Hua replied with a firm voice, no. I am a member of the Namgung family. I will take every arrow aimed at the Namgung family. Finally, she looked him in the eye and said she had decided to live that way. The next day, the scene shifted to the sluggish face of a Namgung guard. Not just him, but everyone at the training ground was receiving training from Zhu Hua. She seriously corrected each person's movements, telling them to raise their right arms higher. Just a bit more, keep going. He cursed inwardly, wondering how much longer a bit was. Damn it, I shouldn't have listened to the captain when he said a top expert would be teaching us. The group glared at Zhai Ping with burning eyes, thinking this was more like torture than teaching. What kind of expert was this? Seeing her in person, she was just a child. Meanwhile, Zhai Ping was still focused on his push-ups. 997, 998, 999, 1,000. The counting ended, and it was time for everyone to rest. Zhu Hua approached and asked Zhai Ping if he was finished. He tiredly replied that he had completed all 1,000 push-ups. I'm finished, but I'm exhausted. However, her next words made him grimace. As expected, you can do 1,000 quite easily. Next time, it would be better to put weights on your back. At this rate, it will be difficult to properly temper your bones and tendons. What? How could she say something so heartless? You all should do the same. Next time, place the weights on your thighs. They immediately protested. Wouldn't that be lethal, young hero? She replied nonchalantly that such a level wouldn't kill them. They were left speechless, not knowing how to respond. The group turned away in misery, thinking they should just give up on this demon and rest. She suddenly remarked that if they continued like this, they would soon become inner court warriors. They asked if it was true, wondering if they really had the strength, to which she replied that strength is forged through practice. Zhai Ping thought to himself that the words of a distinguished guest from the Heavenly Guest Pavilion were certainly no joke. It couldn't be a lie. Perhaps it was based on solid ground or sheer confidence. They clenched their fists in determination, thinking that if they could become inner court warriors, then they would do anything. She asked if they could do more, and they eagerly agreed to participate, one after another. However, Zhai Ping remained worried, asking the young hero if she knew that no matter how much they trained or how much their strength grew, they were still just. The next morning, Namgung Wushan was restless all because of a single question from Zhu Hua, asking if she could call him grandfather. He agreed, telling her to call him that from now on, as it brought him great joy. On such a momentous day, nothing made him happier than her accepting them as family. He seemed delighted, assuring her that everyone would love her and telling her not to worry as she greeted the others. She bowed and complied, first with the clan elders, who expressed how hard it must have been for her, their granddaughter, noting they still remembered her face from when she was a newborn. They were overjoyed to see her again, remarking that she returned as bright and clever as ever, which was a great blessing for the entire clan. Next were the hall masters. Namgung Jibo, the master of the law enforcement hall, invited her to visit his hall whenever she was free. Namgung Suola, the master of the finance hall, thanked her, noting that her return had saved the Namgung clan 300 taels of gold. Then Namgung Yan, the master of the outer hall, introduced himself. He mentioned they had met before. Next were the leaders of the various combat units. She thought to herself that while everyone welcomed her with smiles, she wondered how sincere they were and who among them was trustworthy, questioning if her grandfather feared she would be manipulated by those old foxes. It wasn't entirely without reason. To them, a granddaughter who had been missing for 8 years with amnesia was no different from a stranger. To solidify her position in the clan, she needed to show them her worth. She bowed to Namgung Wushan and addressed him as grandfather, mentioning her arrival at unit. He expressed his relief at finally hearing her call him grandfather, noting that she used to only address him as the clan head. He remarked that 1,000 pounds of gold could not compare to a moment of true affection. The truth was that the clan head had accepted her as his granddaughter. She admitted she hadn't dared to speak because she feared that if she were one day discovered not to be of Namgung blood, he would have to leave and would regret it, as she wouldn't want to be apart from him anymore. Upon hearing her words, everyone in the martial arts hall was so shocked their jaws dropped. Namgung Wushan was moved to tears, pitying his granddaughter. Outside the main hall, Namgung Chengyun concernedly asked Zhu Hua if her arm felt any better. She replied that she had already answered that 50 times and that it didn't hurt at all anymore. He felt relieved, realizing his excessive worry had been unnecessary. She thought to herself that he had seemed restless for a while and wondered what was troubling him. But he told her, "Zhu Hua, today I will inform the elders of your return. It will be a very joyful day." He told her not to worry about the many strangers and to simply perform the greetings properly, promising to protect her before they returned to the training ground. Zhai Ping cupped his hands and asked the young lady not to give them too much hope, but she firmly replied that everything was about to change. With eyes full of confidence, she declared that everything would change because she was there now. Then she stared at Zhai Ping and asked him to make a promise. She asked him to promise they would never give up, and he scratched his head, saying that perseverance had always been his greatest strength. Zhu Hua felt that the man did not seem to believe her, while Zhai Ping secretly worried about the long-standing problems within the clan. There was no immediate solution to those problems, but she realized the best she could do for now was to become the catalyst for these people. Zhu Hua looked up at him and asked him to trust her just once so she could help him achieve the destiny he should have reached long ago. Since it was still unclear who would become the next clan leader, the criteria for selecting warriors were no longer based on martial skill. It only depended on whose side you were on, and those without money or connections had no chance, which was why the promotion exams had become a farce. He explained that the exams were battlegrounds for factions using any means to promote their own, and though they were grateful for her encouragement, it seemed impossible. She asked if he meant training was useless, but he lamented that they could never become inner court warriors no matter how strong they were. He feared that hope would only lead to disappointment, and that they would blame themselves for chasing delusions since they had no backing. He had trained for over 10 years dreaming of the inner court, and the first time an inferior person was chosen over him, he thought it was just bad luck. The second time he blamed his own complacency, and by the third time he wondered if his techniques or forms were flawed. He wondered if he had misunderstood the mental cultivation mnemonics. But then he finished his 100th repetition and thanked the young lady for her guidance. She told them to rest, amazed they survived such intense training, and when she asked about tomorrow, they thanked her for her hard work. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he expressed his deep gratitude for her instruction, and she assured them that they were all doing very well. She said she would wait at the Hong Long Corps training ground tomorrow, explaining she would not stay at the Tianjin Pavilion much longer. When asked if she was leaving, she thought to herself that she was only leaving the pavilion to become a member of the Nan Gong family. Relay the message to the other warriors that they must still arrive punctually tomorrow. and encourage each other so that no one abandons the task midway. As for Zhu Hua, few here can truly be trusted, and since gauging a person's heart is difficult, there is no need for haste. For now, she can only learn through direct interaction and personal observation. Namgung Wushan rose and declared that the Namgung family had finally recovered the child lost for 8 years. And just as they had posted notices everywhere to find her, they must now ensure the entire world knows of her return. Placing his hand on her shoulder, he announced that new notices should be posted throughout the Central Plains, and the family treasury opened to fund the widespread announcement of the child's homecoming. The elders bowed with cupped hands to obey the family head, who then proclaimed that Namgong's enemies must be made to realize that this very family stands behind the child they intend to target. The Namgung family will never repeat their past mistakes, and they must always remember both the agony of losing the child for 8 years and the immense joy of this reunion. By the family head's decree, the child is destined to become the future of the Wulin Alliance, as Namgung Zhu Hua finally returns to the family at the Yunxiao Pavilion. While Zhu Hua and her father walked together, he remarked that the place might seem too large for her, explaining it was once her grandmother's residence because she loved flowers. He mentioned that her grandfather had specifically granted her this place, known as the most beautiful in the Namgung estate, likely wanting her to be surrounded by beauty, when a servant suddenly arrived with a report. The servant asked the eldest young master if the head steward and the Feifeng great master should be invited in. Outside, the two stood with arms crossed, including the Feifeng sword master, refusing to look at one another. One asked why the other had followed him, to which the other replied that he had come on urgent business, prompting a retort about whether an important reason was even necessary to visit. He claimed he only wished to see the young lady, but the other called it absurd and rude to intrude so casually, though he insisted that he and the girl shared a very close bond. When asked what the problem was, the other questioned his use of the term little girl for the young lady, teasingly suggesting he was jealous or perhaps saddened by no longer being the one closest to her. He denied the accusation, but the other continued to taunt him about being envious of his closeness with the young lady, saying that jealousy meant defeat, just as Namgung Qingyun approached to inquire. Namgung Qingyun asked what they were discussing so cheerfully, and remarked that he should have arrived later to avoid interrupting, at which point the steward immediately stepped forward to take his hand. The steward insisted his timing was perfect and greeted the eldest young master and the young lady, introducing himself as Namgung Wen, the family's head steward, while Zhu Hua politely greeted him in return. He noted that things had always been this way, and when she addressed him as Grandpa Steward, she inquired about the cart overflowing with gold, silver, and precious jewels standing before her. Namgung Wen explained that the family head had gifted her these jewels, silks, gold, and elixirs, and when she marveled at the amount, he urged her not to refuse what she was long owed before suggesting they set the gold aside. He presented the premium silks and fabrics, noting that they had already prepared finished garments so she wouldn't need to sew, which left her wondering what the purpose of the extra fabric was. He showed her the nourishing spiritual medicines, explaining that any harmful components had been removed, but warning her against overconsumption, while she calculated that finishing them all would likely take months. Now this will truly astonish the young lady. Zhu Hua slowly opened the box to reveal a stunning set of jewelry. This is a treasure the family head acquired while traveling abroad. He kept it safe for you long before your return. It is beautiful, isn't it? Behind her, 2 people whispered that the Treasury Hall master was reluctant to part with it, so they knocked him out and brought it back. Since it was the family head's order, I had no choice, Jai Wu Guan remarked, though Namgung Wen grew irritated, noting the young lady seemed unimpressed. What are you saying? Are your eyes failing you? She clearly loves it. Not at all, her expression says otherwise. You don't understand anything. The gift the little girl truly wants is right here. This is a congratulatory gift for your return. Please accept it. Do you want to open it? He gave Zhu Hua a sword and she asked if she could try drawing it. He agreed, and the blade slid out smoothly, radiating a chilling aura. One could tell it was a formidable legendary sword without even swinging it. She asked if it was made of cold iron, and he praised her for recognizing its rarity. Is this really for me? Yes, do you like it? He patted her head, saying her joy made him happy, and mentioned he once wielded this sword himself. He told her to become the new master of this sword. When she asked for its name, he explained it was called Wan Dian, meaning 10,000 lightnings. But now that it's yours, you may call it whatever you wish. Can I try using it? He thought to himself, seeing her so happy makes me content. It was worth the effort of sharpening the blade all night long. Go practice in the private martial arts hall. It would be a problem if you got hurt from playing too roughly. She didn't even wait for me to finish speaking. Truly, she is so agile and incredibly fast. Who taught that child to leap into the air like that? Ah, chief manager, it's quite all right. Seeing the young lady so happy is a great comfort to me. I believe the family head's sincerity has been conveyed, so now I must think of a gift to offer. Hey, arrange these items neatly in the young lady's room. Yes, a servant asked the chief manager. A gift was just sent for the young lady. Should I place it in her room immediately? You said only a gift was delivered. Who sent it? Please forgive me. Since I didn't receive any further instructions, let's go and check it out. Only 8 hours have passed since the announcement of the young lady's return. Yet someone sent a gift so quickly and vanished without a word. How strange. Fine, let's see what the item is first. Meanwhile, Zhu Hua was testing her sword. The wind dispersing from the blade made her body feel weightless, and the hilt fit her hand perfectly, as if the sword were crafted specifically for her. Wan Dian, the 10,000 lightnings. Indeed, such a grand name is not wasted on this blade, as she felt it could cut through anything. Like the limbs of the demonic beasts she would face in the future, she allowed her body to be guided by the sword's aura, carving out a seamless path. She slashed freely in her chosen direction, advancing with each strike while panting slightly, realizing she had to rename the technique from 10,000 lightning bolts. It would be called satiated lightning to signify fulfillment. If she could execute a strike capable of filling the entire world, she could at least fracture the blood demon's plans, shattering the foretold future and filling the path ahead with new potential. A vase shattered on the floor as a woman angrily remarked that following the world-protecting spirit tree with gold and jewels was exactly the patriarch's style. The patriarch seemed pleased with his eldest granddaughter's return, which was expected since she was found after 8 years. Even 8 years ago, he had deeply favored Lady Zhu Hua, but giving her the world-protecting spirit tree was excessive, as it could have made young Master Xiao Long an unrivaled genius. She sighed, noting that Xiao Long was already a prodigy whom no one in the Zhu family could rival. And indeed, the young master stood without equal. His talent forced the inner hall members to train harder, and even without the world-protecting spirit tree, Xiao Long's power was more than sufficient. It was unlikely a single gift of the world-protecting spirit tree could turn a worm into a dragon, so Kang Yun had to prove that fact. How strange. Sipping her tea, she asked if the preparations for the Heavenly Mist ceremony in half a month were ready, and was told the outer hall warriors were prepared. Since the achievements of the inner hall and the direct descendants would be tested, they had made thorough preparations to ensure no mistakes occurred. Good, a worm cannot become a dragon in just half a month, she said, her eyes turning cold and sharp. Vermin must never be harbored. The next day, Namgung Wushan summoned Zhu He to his room and told him someone had delivered an item for him. It was left by a man who came to collect rations, claiming it was a gift for you. Was he captured? He was, but that man had no connection to this object. It seems he merely did a favor for someone he met on the road and delivered it. Wu Shenwen reported that his subordinates used truth serum during the interrogation. There is no mistake. This clearly isn't a typical gift, which is why I summoned you. He asked if he knew anything about it. He thought to himself, I haven't been back for even half a day, yet those hungry leeches have already caught my scent. I didn't expect the 12 moons of the 12 demon assassins to find me so quickly. By leaving this token, they are wagering all the status and reputation they have built over the years to initiate a duel to the death. It is a final showdown, or perhaps a message that death is the only end for a traitor, to be settled through a fair duel. They are calling for me. I must go meet them. Absolutely not. I have to go. This matter has nothing to do with the Namgung clan. This is my private business that I must settle alone. You belong to the Namgung family. How can you say your affairs don't involve us? It is the clan's duty to protect you. Zhu He wanted to argue further, but he cut him off with a cold voice. Enough. I realize a restriction was placed on you, preventing you from naming the sender, but I cannot let you walk into a death trap without any clues. You only need to worry about your own safety. Let the clan elders handle this matter. Afterward, he ordered the head manager to take the item away. Even Namgung Qingyun dared not defy him. Zhu He thought, this won't do. The 12 moons surely know about the suggestion, how to break it, and what the blood demon is plotting. If I don't meet them face to face, I'll find nothing. This is the chance to find clues through their mistakes. He suddenly spoke up. I have a plan. I told you not to act recklessly. Then it's fine as long as I'm safe, right? I have a way to capture the enemy without suffering a single scratch. Please listen to me just once. I beg of you, he sighed. You truly are stubborn. Fine, tell me your plan. Later, the father and son stepped outside. I'm worried sick. Why is that? You're still asking why? Even if you say you won't get hurt, the mere fact that someone is targeting you is dangerous enough. He thought, the old man is truly worrying over nothing. If he worries this much, how can I navigate the treacherous martial world? Yet Namgung Qingyun believed that at such a young age, he had already endured too much bitterness. I don't know what to do. Danger or not, what must be done will be done. He said, Father, there is something I want to learn. You want to learn? What is it? Please teach me the Namgung clan's mental cultivation technique. Since the blood cult has made its move, We cannot simply sit idly and wait for death. I must quickly strengthen my internal energy so this body can fully master the Namgung martial arts, especially before I have to face the 12 moons. My condition needs to be many times better than it is now. He scratched his face and asked, "Aren't you going to be taught the mental cultivation techniques by the great clan leader soon? Wouldn't it be better to learn with your peers then? I want to learn right now. I've been looking forward to this day since before I even arrived at the Namgung residence." She looked at her father with wide, shimmering eyes and asked, "Can't you be the one to teach me?" He covered his eyes, unable to look at her directly, and said, "Fine, that's enough, I'll do it." Namgung Kingyun picked her up and said, "Then let's start right away." "Yes." The father and daughter then entered a room where he placed his hand on Zuhua's back. "We'll recite the formulas while guiding your internal energy. Memorize the flow carefully. The technique I'm passing to you is the foundation of all Namgung family martial arts. It is the process of absorbing the pure energy of the vast firmament into your body. Since the firmament covers the earth we stand upon, breathing and feeling the breeze is to experience the firmament itself, which is always around us. The energy of heaven and earth is ever-changing and infinitely harmonious. Harnessing that celestial energy is the core of the Namgung mental technique, just like this. The great firmament evolution, divine art, and the four great elements, divine art. Feel the current of energy flowing through your meridians. This video ends here. If you enjoyed this, please remember to hit the like button to support Gao. Thank you and goodbye, everyone.